Series IC814 sparks massive controversy.
Good evening, this is your captain speaking.
I regret to inform you कि ये plane hijack हो चुका है.
Row erupts over hijackers' Hindu call signs.
क्या ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है, हिस्ट्री जो बाद में पढ़ी जाएगी या हमारे लोग जो IC814 में फंसे हैं?
Hijackers used Bola and Shankar as call signs.
मुझ पे भरोसा करें, मैं
पूरी कोशिश कर रहा हूं कि हम जल्द से जल्द अपने घर पहुंच सकें.
Netflix accused of distorting facts.
लोगों को सिर्फ ये याद रहेगा कि इस गवर्नमेंट ने इतने मिलिटेंट्स को छोड़ा.
जान लेने से पहले 1000 बार सोचना, लेकिन जान बचाने से पहले एक बार भी नहीं.
Center seeks clarification from Netflix. Row over IC814.
IC814, the Kandahar Hijack series on OTT platform Netflix, has sparked off a massive controversy soon after its release. Filmmaker Anubhav Sinha's new web series faces huge criticism on multiple fronts. One, the use of Hindu names for Pakistani Muslim hijackers, which actually was used at the time of hijacking by Pakistani terrorists in 1999 to hide their identities. In the series, the hijackers are referred to as Chief, Dr. Burger, Bhola and Shankar, the names which were actually used by the hijackers at that time. But BJP's IT cell head and co-in-charge of Bengal, Amit Malviya, has alleged that the act of giving Hindu names to Pakistani Muslim terrorists depicts the left-wing's agenda to whitewash the crimes of Pakistani terrorists. And there are a number of people who say that this Netflix series is actually a PR job for Pakistan's notorious spy agency, the ISI.
I don't want to second guess what the government of India and the Ministry of INB is investigating. It is not my place to do so. But certainly as a citizen, as somebody who saw the first 15 minutes of it and then I stopped watching it, I was deeply offended. And I have memories, all of us have memories of IC814, how it left a scar on our nation, that trauma. And it is still not fully healed for many people. And for that to be misrepresented, that Pakistan ISI-backed hijack event to be misrepresented as something being done by Indians, I think as a personally and my personal opinion, it is very, very unfortunate and it is in some sense almost criminal.
Let me first lay out the broad parameters of this discussion. The question we are asking on this broadcast: have terrorists been glorified in IC814, the Kandahar hijack? Has role of Pakistan's ISI been whitewashed in this Netflix series? And let me take this one by one. Advaita Kala, let me kick off by asking you, have terrorists been glorified in IC814, the Kandahar hijack, in this Netflix series?
Well, I don't know about being glorified, but certainly humanized. And I think that is equally problematic because there should be no gray areas when it comes to terrorists. We know exactly what they stand for, what they're capable of doing, what they do, and how far they're ready to go to pursue their agenda. So I really don't think that there is any need to even glorify. You just have to not humanize them. And unfortunately, that is what has happened with this show. And that is why people are responding to it in such a negative manner, because this was obviously a very traumatic incident in India's history. Incidents like this do scar the psyche. That is why they are carried out. That's why terrorists carry them out. We all saw a couple of years later when 9/11 took place and thousands lost their lives, how the Americans responded. So these are very traumatic events. I'm speaking from an emotional and a psychological perspective. Now, you will never find Americans making a film on 9/11 or a series on 9/11 where even if they want to show governmental or intelligence failure, they will never humanize or glorify terrorists. That's just not acceptable.
Okay, Ravira Bharadwaj, respond to the criticism that this shows terrorists in a humane manner And I'll come to that Bhola and Shankar and the Pakistani names, the real names of these Pakistani terrorists in a moment. But respond to this criticism that terrorists are being humanized through series like this.
No, I agree they shouldn't be humanized, but there's something called as creative liberty. In cinema, we do have a creative liberty where we're showing the different side and the actual storyline that actually took place during that time, because I know the filmmakers generally stick to the truth of the incident that happened. So I think it's just a way of showing the other side, but definitely I agree they shouldn't be humanized. But we can be open about seeing what exactly went down in their heads, in their minds, and that's why this incident took place. I think this was a filmmaker's style of telling people that you should understand the psyche also why this happened.
Raghav Avasthi, would you buy this logic that it's a creative license that a filmmaker has? Why should people object? Even if terrorists are being humanized, maybe in the mind of the filmmakers, the terrorists had a humane angle to them.
There are two aspects here. First aspect is, of course, that there was an intelligence failure. There is no doubt about it. And if the web series shows that there is intelligence failure, there is nothing wrong. Having said that, what I have more of a problem with, of course, is the names that have been depicted, and secondly, the absolute whitewashing of the role of the ISI and the Afghan Taliban, which at that point in time used to be completely under the control of the ISI. Since then, they have broken free, or whatever it is, they are probably not under the control of the ISI. So I think the most insidious part of this film is when you take an intelligence agency that has been inimical to India since day one, and you are trying to show them as if they tried to save innocent lives. And just look at the manner in which the Taliban has been depicted, as if they are not the kind of terrorists that till now they don't allow women to be educated, and they have been depicted as if they were trying to help in some sort of a bona fide manner. I don't know about Advaita ji, but I've actually watched the whole web series. I don't know whether she has been able to get the time to do that, but after watching the web series and after also having followed the newspapers at that point in time, I have realized that this is nothing, this is absolutely nothing, but as Veer Sanghvi put it, Veer Sanghvi ji is somebody who's not much of a supporter of the BJP. He has said that it seems to be some sort of a whitewash of the role of the ISI.
But Shehzad Khan, whitewashing the role of Pakistan ISI, this is not just criminal, it is sin. And if this has been done, this is truly a sin that's been committed by the filmmakers here, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on your channel. First and foremost, I have seen the entire series, and I don't see any whitewashing of any terrorist group. They have been exposed, how cruel, how bad they are, how ruthless they are. And maybe the Taliban was playing a double game. That also can be seen in the series. It's a very well-made series. It shows what has happened that time, and it has hidden a lot of facts. The facts that a bureaucrat's wife was on the flight, because of which the commandos in Amritsar couldn't barge in and take over the plane. It shows that there was a very, very rich man from that they didn't show, but they showed an Englishman, for a very rich man from Switzerland. First time he always flew private jets. First time he was going in a public airlines, and he also happened to be there. And the Swiss government told the Indian government that we are ready to negotiate, we are ready to pay the amount, what they are asking for. So please, just see the thing, try to read, and we should try to learn from our mistakes. And it is the duty of the intelligence agencies that henceforth in future, such things should not happen with our citizens, especially of India, and with our airlines, and with the humans around us.
So you're saying ISI role is not whitewashed? You're raising certain facts that are not part of the series. So I will not say that. I will not say that. And I don't know whether it's because of the bureaucrat's wife that you claim that the plane wasn't stopped at Amritsar. The fact remains that the Punjab police chief then was directed to fire at the wheels of the plane. But he was too timid to do so by his own admission in a book. But let me bring in Raghav Avasthi. Raghav Avasthi, there is no whitewash of Pakistan's ISI, says Shehzad Khan. And you have your hands up. Response, sir.
Shehzad is right to, as far as one aspect is concerned, Shehzad is actually right. What he is saying is that there was some sort of an intelligence failure, that is one, and that there were other people who were on the plane and their relatives were putting constant pressure on the Indian government in a manner that perhaps Israeli citizens would not do. So both these points are right, but ultimately we need to know. We need to know that it was the ISI and the Afghan Taliban that were working in cahoots with each other. They are being portrayed as some sort of humanists. So if you portray them as some sort of humanist, then allegations of whitewashing will definitely be leveled against you. And I am not at all saying that there was no intelligence failure or that powerful and influential people did not put outsized pressure on the Indian government to negotiate with the terrorists. There is no doubt about it. I was 13 years old. I was old enough to know what was happening. There were people who were demonstrating outside South Block, and they were saying things like, "We don't care."
Not just outside, not just outside South Block, outside what was then known as 7 Racecourse Road. Then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's residence, and there were families that were protesting there, and the role of a section of the media that was highlighting those protests, that cacophony that was built for early release. Let there be a happy new year. Let them be released. The amount of pressure that was mounted on the government, but governments are supposed to withstand pressure. Ravira Bharadwaj, why is this creative license taken in such a way? Because you're saying, okay, it's a filmmaker's creative license. But why a creative license to show ISI in good light, or to give creative, to give a humanist angle, that these terrorists are humanists? For heaven's sake, they were barbarians. They killed Rupan Katyal, and how? Stabbed a man who was coming back from his honeymoon. They stabbed him in front of his newlywed wife. Then the manner in which these people were kept as prisoners in Kandahar, the fact that Pakistan ISI was responsible for this, all of that whitewashed through this series.
I don't think so it's whitewashed. I think it's all, again, I'm telling you, it's creative liberty that we are actually taking the truth from what happened and showcasing it to the audience. We are trying to educate the audience what is happening. That is what cinema is all about. I think we take cinema too seriously and we always rip it apart when it comes to names, humanizing stuff or something. I think it's just a way of showcasing information in an entertainment way. I think we should be more focused on what is actually happening in the country than what a series is doing to some viewers around here. And there is always a creative liberty. That's why it's called cinema, fictional cinema. Even if it's inspired by true events, there is a creative liberty involved while making the show, because it's a show, and people are forgetting that it's a show and just getting too deep into it and bifurcating it.
Adwaita wanted to respond first, Adwaita, and then I'm coming to you, sir.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a screenwriter. I write films. There is a line that you draw when you deal with true stories, especially true stories that have had emotional impact. As a writer, I'm speaking. Okay, even in the pseudonyms that were used, it's very easy to clear the fact on screen that these were pseudonyms. You could have had a moment where those two Hindu named characters, terrorists, refer to each other by their actual names. So that's a tell. And the audience knows that they have pseudonyms. But when you don't make those slight changes to a screenplay and you go by, oh, this was the way it actually happened, and then you give a clean chit to the ISI and you humanize the terrorists, then everybody is going to be very suspicious of what the motives were, because these are easy fixes on a screenplay level, on a narrative level. But you choose not to do that. And I'm sorry, if something is based on true events, widely reported events, then you are going to be held to account for the things that you portray. Otherwise, just call it fiction and have all the creative liberty you want. No problem. Go ahead. I mean, make the terrorist a hero. That's your call.
So the hijackers were Ibrahim Akhtar. Ibrahim Akhtar is from Bahawalpur in Pakistan's southern Punjab province. Shahid Akhtar Saeed, Sani Ahmed Qazi, Zahoor Mistri, they were all from Karachi, again in Pakistan. Shakir was from Sukur, again in Pakistan. But Shehzad Khan, none of this is mentioned in this Netflix series. The terrorists are only shown as Burger, Bhola and Shankar.
See, that must be the code names that they had kept. And they looked very immature. And ISI, nobody is trying to give any clean sheet to ISI. What has happened, as one of my colleagues on the panel said, they have shown that, and they have shown it to the T. Every fact has been shown, but still, I would say a lot of facts have been hidden for the betterment of the series, which you can see all around YouTube. Now the survivors, the original survivors, the travelers on the plane, they are coming out and giving their interviews and their viewpoints. And from them, we come to know that how heartless these terrorists were. And it is clearly seen in the series that they were heartless people. The way they stabbed that young guy, that young married guy. So terrorists are nobodies. वो किसी के बाप के नहीं होते.
Mr. Avasthi, go on, make your
Gaurav,
point, sir.
Two more points. First of all, it's really asinine to say that it is just a movie. Movies can be very influential. Your father was posted in Kashmir. You would know what happened after this Lion of the Desert movie about Omar Mukhtar of Libya was released. And that was the catalyst for the spread of terrorism, one of the catalysts. The other point is that it's not just about giving them Hindu names. If you actually watch, I think it was Patralekha's character, and she's playing the air hostess. And at one point in time, she says that she finds one of the terrorists hot. So what is it that you are trying to portray? Are you trying to give a message to impressionable young women and girls that somebody who's also a terrorist? This, ties in with the point about dehumanization. And when I watched it, I was absolutely aghast. Tomorrow, if there is a character who is a rapist or a terrorist or a murderer, is it possible? Would you show in the movie that he's supposed to be found hot by women? What is it? These filmmakers should have some sense of responsibility. And as far as I am concerned, I'm very much a free speech absolutist. But such movies should be banned because they have the potential of causing communal tension and they are portraying completely wrong values. There are a lot of people who would know about IC 814 only through this movie.
Shehzad Khan, is this reason enough to summon the Netflix India content, or is this an unnecessary curb on free speech?
It's an unnecessary curb on free speech. Some time back, some party had an objection on Deepika's swimming that costume which she had worn. Why is it orange color? Why are they looking at all these nitty-gritties? Let them, there are bigger things to look after, and they should look at that. And in this series, web series, it has clearly been shown the failure of the then intelligence agencies and, of course, the then government. So why to just we just see
Raghav
Avasthi,
you're a free speech absolutist, and yet you want this series banned because Mr. Shehzad Khan very clearly says this is curbing free speech, summoning Netflix India content head.
I don't think this is a free speech issue at all. Tomorrow you want to go ahead in the public square and start yelling that the Nirbhaya rapists were really nice people and some of them might also be hot. Of course, that's not free speech. That's not free speech. Yes, it is comparable because if you are portraying a terrorist as somebody who's appealing to women, then of course you are not only humanizing him, you are saying that somehow committing acts of terror is hot. That's the subliminal message that is going across to the audience. And it's not just a movie. As I said, for many people who didn't, because I think from that time, the news reports would also not be on the internet. For them, I see it. This web series is their only source of information about this hijack. So what is it that you are telling them? First of all, you are portraying what is widely reported inaccurately, and it is something that, as I reiterated earlier, has been called out by journalists who have no editorial leanings towards the BJP. Everybody knows. If you ask people in Pakistan, they will also tell you the same thing that the
I'm not going on individuals. No, Raghav Avasthi, I'm least interested in going on individuals. I'm on the wider issue. I'm on the bigger issue of free speech, and I'm on the bigger issue of whether Netflix India content head should be summoned, or the series, as you say, should it be taken off air?
Advaita Kala. I will explain just for a moment. Netflix actually has a lot of control over scripting and all of these processes. So if they had some sort of filters, then those filters should have been employed. If they have not been employed, then since Netflix is making money in India through subscriptions, they bloody well tell us as to how Whether it was something deliberate or whether it was an accidental omission, they should tell us.
Okay, Advaita Kala, is this a curb on free speech, summoning Netflix India chief, content chief?
No, not at all. Not at all. See, because the OTT platforms and the government of India has come to an understanding where they have taken on an undertaking on their own, where they have said that they will subscribe to certain values when it comes to their shows on TV. Now, if they are reneging on those promises that they have made, then I think, yes, they need to have a conversation with the government of the day, because that is what they agreed to themselves. Because initially there was going to be some sort of censor board for OTTs. And then OTTs came back and said, no, we have certain standards and values and we will stick to those. Now, one of those obviously has to do with terrorism and not, glorifying them, humanizing them, sexualizing them, and all of those things. So those are things they'll have to answer to.
Ravira Bharadwaj, even if those terrorists had code names Bhola and Shankar, even if it is being said on TV, replicating what was said on board that flight IC-814, should the fact that they were Pakistani terrorists, all 5 of them, I want to once again reiterate for the benefit of the younger audience who are watching this, Ibrahim Akhtar was one of those terrorists. He was from Bahawalpur in Pakistan. Shahid Akhtar Saeed was from Karachi. Ahmed Qazi was from Karachi. Zahoor Mistri was from Karachi. Shakir was from Sukur. And the terrorists who were released, once again, for the benefit of our viewers, 3 dreaded terrorists were released when IC-814 was hijacked, including that Maulana of terror, Masood Azhar. Apart from that, Ahmed Omar Saeed Sheikh, who then abducted Daniel Pearl and killed him. And also Mushtaq Ahmed Zargar. All these points, Ms. Bharadwaj, needs to come out through a series so that people know IC-814 was not about hot terrorists. It was all about bleeding innocent people and holding countries to ransom.
See, when you're keeping Hindu names, they disguise themselves with Hindu names like Bhola and Shankar, you were telling me. I didn't know that. And I'm sure younger audience would know that. So it's a great way of giving information that this can also happen, that terrorists can also disguise themselves with Hindu names. So I think it's a great way of information. Again, I just don't get it. Why are we stretching this thing that their names are Bhola and
Because the truth is not being told that they were Pakistani Muslim terrorists.
So me,
that
as a
truth is
younger
not being told.
audience,
Half truth.
I did not know that this happened during that time, that they were disguised with Hindu names. Now, as an audience, I have an information that this can also happen. And this actually happened, where they were disguised with Hindu names. So this is an informative platform that delivered an information, especially to the younger audience who didn't know about this attack. So how is that wrong?
Unless there is a far more devious game at play, Advaita Kala, because right from that time, 2 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks where Ajmal Amir Kasab was also given a Hindu name. The 10 Pakistani Muslim terrorists were all given Hindu names, Hindu identity cards, and David Coleman Headley, incidentally, Daud Gilani was his original name. I covered his trial in that Chicago courthouse, so I know that he bought that Roli Kalava from the Siddhivinayak temple. It means there's a bigger game at play to get this bogey of Hindu terrorism in the country by some here and some across, Advaita Kala.
Yes, that's a persistent threat, mostly because these are people who carry out attacks with the full intention of even giving up their lives. So you are going to assume that they're going to be dead when they're found, and hence dead men don't tell tales, right? So you go by what they're wearing on their wrist, or if they have a tilak on their forehead. So this was, of course, a plan of subterfuge. I think I just want to point out here that the reason we know that these guys had Hindu names, were originally, Pakistani, is only because of the outrage, because the series in itself does not really make that clear. And that's what I said. It was an easy fix at the script level. It's an easy fix post the show when you roll credits to put that out there. There's so many ways to easily fix this, but it was not done. And that's why I question this.
Fair enough. We will continue to track developments on the story very closely. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me. I need to slip into a quick break here.
Say hello when I'm so fly. You took a nosedive. Careful when you play on my level. For you it's so. Hey, hello.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra. Flip the script.
Hello, Moto.
When a leader of the Congress party, a woman leader of the Congress party alleges harassment, alleges exploitation, they do not investigate it. They silence her and remove her from the party. This is the same Congress party where Priyanka Gandhi would say before an election, "Ladki hoon, lad sakti hoon." This is the same Congress party where Rahul Gandhi will go to Jammu and Kashmir and say on January 30th of this year that women have talked about rape and harassment. But when it comes to his own party, the Congress in Kerala, which has a huge, long list, dubious record of harassment complaints that are on record from various members of the Congress, women members of the Congress, he does nothing.
बावजूद इसके आज अमानतुल्लाह खान जो आम आदमी पार्टी के विधायक हैं, उनके घर पर ईडी सुबह सुबह छापा मारने के लिए पहुंच गई। ऐसे वक्त में जब उनकी मदर इन लॉ को कैंसर हुआ है, उनका ऑपरेशन हुआ है, और ऐसा नहीं कि ईडी को इस बात की जानकारी नहीं, तो मैं समझता हूं कि ईडी